Today, we are going to reveal the classified cat and mouse game that brought down one of the most elusive cartel bosses in history. Welcome to Navy Exclusive, your premier source for the unvarnished truth on advanced military operations. Imagine hiding in the densest jungle on Earth only to have a silent mechanical predator track your exact heart rate from 30,000 feet above. We will walk you through every missile launch, every radar ping, and the exact moment a high-tech electronic shield totally collapsed. It is 3:47 in the morning in Bolivar State, Venezuela. The thick jungle canopy is shrouded in absolute total darkness. The air is heavy and perfectly still. Deep within this isolated, remote territory, an Iranian proxy surveillance system suddenly detects a faint anomaly. An aerial signal appears at the very edge of its monitoring range. It lingers for only a few fleeting seconds before vanishing completely. The sudden blip sends panic through the hidden compound. Alarm bells echo loudly against the heavy, damp jungle air. Heavily armored SUVs immediately roar to life in the darkness. Hector Nino Guerrero is on the move. He is the infamous ruthless leader of the Tren de Aragua cartel. His motorcade speeds recklessly into the treacherous night. The Great Escape has officially begun. Post-Maduro Venezuela remains a highly fractured and chaotic land, but the dense, impenetrable forests of Bolivar State offer the perfect sanctuary. Here, Guerrero runs his vast criminal empire far from prying eyes. This compound is absolutely no ordinary criminal hideout. It is a highly fortified complex protected by heavily armed cartel gunmen. Even more surprising is the advanced electronic warfare network surrounding the perimeter. This sophisticated electronic shield is secretly operated and maintained by Iranian proxy forces. Their presence turns a simple jungle camp into a highly formidable digital fortress. The entire facility was carefully engineered to erase any trace of Guerrero. But hiding from the United States military requires significantly more than just signal jammers. High above the Caribbean reconnaissance corridor, an RQ-4 Global Hawk glides through the stratosphere. It silently maintains its patrol pattern at over 60,000 feet. It remains completely undetected by the panicked men scrambling in the mud below. The massive aircraft uses its advanced synthetic aperture radar to continuously monitor traffic routes. It sweeps the forested mountainous areas surrounding the cartel compound with incredible precision. Every single movement of the escaping convoy is instantly detected and transmitted. Real-time data floods into the Air Combat Operations Center hundreds of miles away. Analysts watch the escape unfold in perfect clarity. Meanwhile, an MQ-9 Reaper Block 5 stealthily enters the active operational area. This lethal hunter-killer drone departed hours earlier from a military base in Puerto Rico. As the cartel convoy appears on the drone sensors, the targeting system springs to life. The high-resolution optical cameras and infrared sensors quickly scan the vehicles. They firmly lock onto the specific SUV believed to be carrying Guerrero. The digital target lock gradually stabilizes as the Reaper maneuvers into the perfect firing position. But the enemy on the ground is highly trained and ready to fight back. Iranian electronic warfare teams immediately activate their powerful mobile jammers. They violently blanket the entire jungle area with high-intensity disruption signals. They blast the airspace with massive GPS and radio frequency noise. At the exact same moment, a Mohajer 6 drone takes off from a concealed runway nearby. It continuously emits chaotic signals designed to blind the American operational picture. The invisible electronic fog is thick, aggressive, and highly disorienting. The MQ-9 Reaper is up to strike the fleeing convoy. It readies an AGM-114 Hellfire missile for an immediate kinetic launch. But suddenly the tracking signal violently fluctuates on the remote control screens. The crosshairs on the digital target lock keep jumping frantically away from the cartel vehicle. Just seconds later, the lock disappears entirely from the American monitor. The convoy plunges into a narrow mountain pass and vanishes into the thick layer of electronic jamming. The initial precision strike was on the verge of complete operational failure. The expensive Reaper drone was temporarily blinded by the proxy forces. But the United States Air Force never sends just a single card to a high-stakes battlefield. At 4:03 in the morning, the electronic jamming grows increasingly intense. Guerrero and his men constantly change their course along the winding forest trails. They weave unpredictably through the treacherous terrain to throw off the hunters. On the main control screen for the Reaper drone, tracking signals randomly appear. They flash briefly and vanish in mere seconds. They are quickly swallowed up by a massive barrage of false signals and ghost contacts. The Iranian Mohajer 6 drone continues to circle overhead like a vulture. Mobile jamming stations on the ground constantly shift their physical positions. They move relentlessly to conceal the true escape route of the cartel boss. The enemy electronic warfare tactics are highly disciplined and incredibly frustrating. But far to the north of the Caribbean state, another massive card is played. Two F-35A Lightning Roman II fighter jets silently enter the combat zone. They launched earlier from Homestead Air Reserve Base and are flying in full stealth mode. They purposefully do not activate their long-range active search radar. They refuse to emit any signals strong enough to alert the panicked enemy below. They simply cruise through the dark sky and quietly gather massive amounts of data. These advanced fifth-generation fighters act as massive airborne vacuum cleaners for intelligence. They absorb the information streaming in from the Global Hawk and the Reaper drone. As the distance to the target closes, the F-35A sensor systems go to work. They meticulously begin to peel back the dense layers of interference shrouding the jungle. Every single signal emitted by the electronic warfare vehicles is captured and analyzed. The flight path of the enemy drone is calculated with extreme mathematical precision. Unusual ground movements gradually come together to form a crystal-clear tactical picture. The F-35A supercomputers sort through the electronic chaos at lightning speed. On the master tactical map, several suspected targets are instantly removed from the watch list. The advanced artificial intelligence determines they are merely early decoys designed to distract. The true immense capabilities of the American stealth fighters are entirely unknown to the men hiding below. At 4:09 in the morning, a massive breakthrough occurs. A completely new movement pattern suddenly appears on the extreme edge of the search area. Instead of following the main expected route, a new cluster of signals emerges. This quiet group is far outside the anticipated retreat path. They are moving rapidly through the narrow, darkened valleys to the very south. The F-35A instantly confirms this critical new data point. This fresh intelligence is immediately relayed back to the United States combat network. The relentless aerial pursuit resumes with renewed deadly intensity. Down on the ground, the operators of the Iranian jamming systems are celebrating prematurely. They actually believe they have successfully blinded the mighty Reaper drone. But they have absolutely no idea what is coming next. Their own electronic noise has directly doomed them. The exact locations of their jamming emitters have just inadvertently exposed their entire strategy. By trying to hide the main convoy, they directly highlighted the actual escape corridor. And this time, the United States military decides to stop decisive kinetic action. At 4:14 in the morning, the heavy support aircraft move into position. The aerial logistics corridor is fully operational over the dark Caribbean Sea. KC-135 Stratotanker refueling aircraft maintain their precise pre-assigned holding patterns. They form a reliable floating gas station for the entire American strike package. After smoothly completing their mid-air refueling, the heavy hitters arrive. F-15E Strike Eagles from Seymour Johnson Air Force Base quickly accelerate southward. These massive fighter bombers are loaded for bear and ready to dismantle the enemy network. Just a few short minutes later, the Strike Eagle pilots receive the latest verified coordinates. This precise targeting data is securely relayed straight from the stealth F-35 as orbiting ahead. As soon as the heavy fighters cross into the active combat zone, they immediately open fire. High-speed AGM-88 HARM missiles tear violently away from their wing pylons. These specialized anti-radiation weapons aggressively hunt down the newly identified enemy signal sources. Simultaneously, heavy GBU-38 JDAM smart bombs are dropped from the sky. They freefall precisely toward the signal relay points hidden along the cartel withdrawal corridor. Massive columns of superheated fire erupt violently among the ancient jungle trees. The mobile jamming stations are completely obliterated one after another in a storm of shrapnel. The very first physical gaps begin to appear in Guerrero and his heavily guarded electronic shield. By 4:21 in the morning, the Venezuelan military response is almost immediate. Two combat-ready F-16 fighter jets are urgently ordered to take off. They are flying on an emergency intercept mission to protect the fleeing cartel convoy. The Venezuelan pilots fly extremely low, dangerously hugging the mountainous terrain. They are desperately attempting to reach the active combat zone before the entire ground defense system is wiped out. However, their desperate heroic effort is completely futile from the very start. From the exact moment their wheels leave the runway, they are being closely watched. Their entire flight path falls squarely within the massive surveillance range of the F-35A. Target data is continuously calculated and updated in absolute real time. The two Venezuelan fighters attempt to use the jagged mountainous terrain to conceal their rapid approach, but they are flying blindly directly into an American trap. By the time the enemy pilots realize they are being actively tracked, it is incredibly too late. An AIM-120D advanced air-to-air missile suddenly streaks in from beyond visual range. A terrifying missile warning alarm screams loudly inside the Venezuelan cockpit. The shocked F-16 formation immediately breaks apart and splits into two radically different directions. A frantic barrage of defensive flares and decoys is desperately launched into the night air. The enemy jets aggressively climb to high altitude to evade the incoming lethal threat. Although neither aircraft is physically shot down, the psychological blow is utterly devastating. The entire coordinated effort to protect the cartel convoy is shattered in just a few dozen terrifying seconds. The two Venezuelan F-16s are immediately forced to turn tail and withdraw from the active combat zone. They retreat in pure defeat to try and find a safer approach from a completely different vector. While the brief aerial confrontation forces the enemy fighters to flee, the ground war intensifies. Devastating explosions continue to relentlessly tear through the jungle along the planned retreat route. One by one, the critical jammer sources permanently disappear from the American tactical displays. The final sophisticated defensive layer surrounding Guerrero is beginning to rapidly collapse. The invisible high-tech net is aggressively tightening around the cartel leader. Forces are successfully destroyed and neutralized. The United States combat network quickly refocuses its massive digital processing power. Attention turns entirely back to the heavily armed convoy fleeing desperately southward. Data pouring in from the Global Hawk, the Reaper, and the F-35A is continuously merged. Every single cartel vehicle in the moving formation is placed under microscopic surveillance. Everything appears to be going exactly according to the master plan. But then the latest military artificial intelligence system detects a very subtle anomaly. While the vast majority of the convoy continuously transmits loud communication signals, something is wrong. The main large group is traveling along highly visible and predictable dirt routes, but a much smaller group of vehicles has quietly broken away from the main formation. This small splinter group is completely different in their behavior. They emit absolutely zero radio signals and maintain strict absolute radio silence. They are constantly changing course and navigating wildly through the dark, remote valleys. Within moments, they quickly disappear entirely beneath the incredibly dense forest canopy. The American intelligence analysts immediately cross-reference this new data from multiple sensor sources. The AI system reaches an alarming and brilliant tactical conclusion. The loud, obvious convoy that had been under surveillance from the very start is a fake. It is highly likely just a massive decoy designed to draw away American firepower. At 4:33, in the hilly region southwest of Bolivar, the real strategy is revealed. Iranian proxy forces deploy their absolute final layer of clever cover for the high-value escape. Low-power, short-range jammers are carefully activated in very small clusters. These subtle jamming signals appear and disappear continuously along the narrow forest corridor. This is the exact hidden route that the mysterious quiet convoy is currently using. The incredibly rugged terrain and the thick jungle make tracking them significantly more difficult than before. However, the United States military exercises absolute tactical patience. Rather than rushing to blindly open fire, commanders decide to carefully maintain the campaign pace. Not a single missile is hastily launched into the darkness. Even though numerous tempting attack opportunities flash across the tactical screens, they wait. Advanced sensors continue to patiently track every slightest movement below the thick tree line. All incoming data is constantly checked and verified by supercomputers. They must perfectly distinguish between the real high-value targets and the final layer of clever decoys. The tension in the Air Combat Command Center is absolutely palpable. The physical distance to the safe escape route is rapidly narrowing for the cartel boss. But this time, the American hunt is no longer distracted by the loud decoy convoy. The digital crosshairs are actively targeting a completely different objective attempting to vanish. At 4:39, the mighty Global Hawk maintains its steady high-altitude patrol. It continuously scans the entire Bolivar region with its powerful synthetic aperture radar. Every hidden trail, every tiny clearing between the hillsides, and every moving shadow is actively watched. This real-time data constantly feeds the American operational network with fresh intelligence. Meanwhile, the silent convoy suspected of transporting the real Guerrero pushes aggressively forward. It weaves desperately through the narrow, treacherous forest corridor. They are fiercely trying to take advantage of every remaining blind spot to escape the relentless manhunt. High above the canopy, the F-35A uses its advanced optical and infrared sensors. The stealth system suddenly detects a hot thermal signature appearing close to the eastern mountains. A Venezuelan F-16 is flying extremely low, hugging the dangerous hillsides to avoid radar detection. It does not launch a direct aggressive attack against